The snow of Basing. The year was 871, and the air over Wessex tasted of salt and impending iron. Viggo, a young scout for the great heathen army, crouched low in the frozen brush. Below him, the village of Basing sat like a huddled animal in the cold. He gripped the hilt of his sea-ox, watching the horizon for the banners of the West Saxons. After their recent defeat at Ashdown, the Northmen were hungry, not just for food, but for the restoration of their pride. In the Saxon camp, the atmosphere was heavy with prayer and the sharpening of steel. King Ethelred I stood with his younger brother, Alfred. They had won a great victory days before, but the king's face was etched with exhaustion. Alfred leaned over a rough wooden table, tracing the muddy paths of the valley. They knew the Vikings had regrouped at Basing, and to leave them there was to leave a dagger at the throat of their kingdom. The horns sounded at dawn, a low, mournful lowing that shook the frost from the trees. The two armies crashed together in a chaotic symphony of splintering wood and shouting. Viggo found himself in the thick of the shield wall, his boots slipping on the bloody slush. Opposite him stood Osric, a Saxon soldier whose eyes burned with a desperate loyalty to his land. Their shields locked, the painted wood groaning under the pressure of the two nations colliding. Alfred moved through the secondary line, his voice cutting through the din of battle. He wasn't just a prince, he was the heartbeat of the Saxon defense. He pulled a fallen soldier to safety, his eyes darting across the field to see where the Viking pressure was strongest. He could see his brother, the king, fighting valiantly in the center, but the Viking line refused to buckle. Ivar, the Viking commander, saw the moment the Saxon line began to fatigue. He signaled to Viggo and the other young warriors. They had been waiting for the Saxon rhythm to break. Now, Ivar roared, his voice like cracking ice. He pointed toward a slight gap where the Saxon shields had drifted apart. Viggo felt a surge of adrenaline as he prepared to leap into the breach. The Viking counterattack was a landslide. Ivar led the charge with a terrifying precision, his bearded axe swinging in wide, lethal arcs. He moved with a grace that belied the weight of his mail shirt. The Saxons, tired from a morning of brutal exertion, began to step back. The momentum had shifted. The heathens were no longer just defending their position, they were reclaiming the field. King Ethelred tried to rally his personal guard, but the weight of the Viking surge was too great. He stumbled, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Osric rushed to his king's side, holding his shield high to intercept a flurry of arrows. The center of the Saxon line was crumbling, and the cold mud of Basing was turning dark with the cost of the defense. Seeing that the day was lost, Alfred fought his way to Osric and the king. He knew that Wessex could not afford to lose its entire leadership in a single afternoon. "We must fall back," Alfred shouted over the roar of the Viking victory chants. He grabbed Osric by the leather straps of his armor, forcing the soldier to turn and help carry the king toward the tree line. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, the Vikings held the field. Viggo climbed back to the ridge where he had stood that morning. He was bruised and his shield was shattered, but the village of Basing was theirs. He looked out over the quieted battlefield, watching the distant flickers of Saxon torches retreating into the dark woods of the west. Alfred watched the fires of Basing burn from the safety of the deep forest. The defeat was bitter, and the Vikings had proven they were far from broken. But as he looked at his tired men, he didn't see despair. He saw the sparks of a fire that would one day reclaim all of England. The Battle of Basing was over, but the war for the soul of Wessex had only just begun.